Yeah.
They really what they want to do is blend us into one kind of like. Have you ever seen that movie, The Time Machine?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I seen the old one like in the 70s or something.
Yeah, they did. They've done a few remakes, but basically they want us to lose our culture, and it's like once we lose our culture, we're so much easier to manipulate. That's why a lot of Africans come over here and they don't fall for this shit. They're not as easily mind controlled as Black people.
Yeah.
Black people are, they're very, I think one of the reasons why we're so, I mean, generally speaking, we're so easy to manipulate is we don't know our roots. We don't know our history. I think anybody that does not know their history is easy to manipulate. And when I was living in Taiwan, there's a law that you can't teach children English until they're 5. So I could have gotten deported for teaching kindergarten. Now, even though that's a law, there were still government officials and police officers who had their kids in school learning English.
You couldn't teach kindergarten?
I technically, legally, I couldn't. I did, but I couldn't.
Oh.
You're right. There's a law. So what would happen is they'd have a raid every once in a while and come into the school and check if you were teaching. Like they had different grade levels, right? But if you were teaching kids 5 or 6 years old, they would they can deport you if you got caught in the classroom teaching. So it's like if somebody came in and they'd be like I'm literally like teaching one day and like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And my assistant comes in running and she's like, government person. I was like, what? She's like, run. I was like, what? She's like, hide. I'm like, shit. I had to run upstairs and hide in the fucking office until the government person. And there are other schools that had protocols because if somebody came in, they had like a secret, some schools had like secret rooms where you can go in and like hide until the government person. But the thing is, they're not stupid. The government person knows that shit's going on. They're just like, don't get caught, Don't get caught, in the raid, in the English teaching raid.
Yeah.
But I think I understand it to a certain degree because I think that they want their culture to have a grasp on their own language before they can they start learning another language. They want them to have a foot in their culture before that. So anytime, before that, it's, and I've seen it and I understand, like, I wanted to travel the world teaching English, but, Asia has its own problems with schooling and turning kids into test-taking machines and stuff.
Yeah. When you was in Taiwan, did they focus on race the way they do out here?
Nope. But you know what? Well, okay. Not really, but I'll tell you, being a Black person, they're just curious about Black people.
Oh, okay.
If you go to I live in a smaller town. If you go to Taipei, people won't stare as much because it's more international city and there are people all over the world. But if you go to smaller towns, you will probably get stares because they just don't see Black people. And a lot of them, see, their country was under martial law for years. They were invaded by the Japanese and stuff, and they were under martial law. So a lot of the people that are getting to travel are actually the younger generation. But not only that, the common people, they're not as rich, I guess, as Americans are. Like, it will take someone a whole month's salary just to pay for a plane ticket to America, just the plane ticket, not counting hotel stay, not counting food and buying stuff and all this stuff. So I knew somebody that left the country and it took her 5 years to save up money to be able to. So just think about your whole month's salary going to pay for a plane ticket to go, just the plane ticket, right?
Yeah, just the plane ticket.
How long would you have to work? This lady worked she was dedicated. She worked 5 years. And what's really sucks is a lot of people come out and they learn English and then they go back and they realize they can't really connect with a lot of their people because their minds have been open and they kind of, they're technically they live in I guess they would call it a democracy. I still say the United States is a republic, but they're very, very American-like. They support America. They hate China. But they hate the Chinese. So their racial beefs are with they hate the Chinese. They hate because see, it's like they left China and started their own country to get away from that crazy shit.
Okay.
So basically, China is still trying to own them and be like, you own. It's basically like the British and the Americans.
Okay, gotcha.
Does that make sense? So Taiwan, when Tsai Ing-wen, that's the president, when she won, or Trump won, she called him. She was one of the first ones to acknowledge him and be like, oh, congratulations, blah blah blah. But and they have a female president right now. I was there when Ma Ying-jeou was president, who was a dude, but she ran, but she lost, I think, the second time. But she actually ran again and she won. So they have a female president right now. And I didn't really understand politics or anything, of course. But I was observing and I knew and I didn't know the language and all that stuff. So I was planning on staying there forever. So but it is very interesting. But so and a lot of the older generations hate the Japanese because they were occupied by the Japanese during World War II. The Japanese are on the side of the Nazis. So a lot of the Japanese raped and pillaged some of the indigenous Taiwanese people. And a lot of the older generations, they speak Japanese in addition to Taiwanese, in addition to Chinese.
Okay.
But they hate Japanese people. The younger generation likes it, but because they're like, oh, cool, video games and manga and sushi. Japanese cool, but you talk to some of the older people, like, fuck the Japanese.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you travel and stuff too. They, the hatred, that type of hatred and I guess racism or discrimination still exists, but it's between the countries that they have beef with.
Right. It had to do with color of skin or
I mean, I think that there are people, like I said, you get stares, and there are people that do have assumptions about Black people because of the propaganda they get.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I didn't have any problems, but I think I also am very open. I think if you go when you're open and you're kind to them, then they might kind of be like standoffish a little bit, but they'll eventually open up. I mean, and I'm just, I was respectful, I carried around a phrase book and I tried to speak the language, but most people still want to speak English to you, over there because they want to practice their English. And I wasn't like an ugly American, but I ran into this dude that was from Africa, and he was like, oh, they're so racist here. And I hate, I hate all the racism between all the the Taiwanese. And he was like, have you had that issue? And I was like, no. And he was like, oh, but then as I got to speak to him, he was a dick. He lied and told people that, he was Kobe Bryant's cousin. And he would go to this bar and get free drinks. I was like, well, maybe they know that you're shady. That's why you're putting off that energy, And I had, I had 3 Black male friends that were there too. Cause I was like, well, maybe it's because I'm a woman that they're more, but I had 3 Black male friends that one's living there indefinitely and they're not, he doesn't have any problems. They don't really, I would have a problem living over there because they don't question the government though. That was my issue with, they're very, very naive. Generally speaking, I know there are exceptions, but it's like they won't believe any of the stuff that we're going through now. They probably believe all the propaganda about Trump and all this stuff. They probably, with the exception of people that I've known and I've talked to that live there, but all the expats, the community is very, very left-wing, very liberal. And I was having trouble with that when I was over there. Now, at the time, I didn't associate my conflict of ideas and philosophy with the left-wing, right wing. I was more just associating it to people that were closed-minded and open-minded. So as I was learning about a lot of the stuff, as I was learning about the New World Order and stuff, and I try and talk this stuff about people, they just think I was weird and I was crazy.